Well, the fallout continues in the case of little 6-year-old boy Eitan Biran, whose family was killed in a devastating cable car crash in Italy earlier this year, with his grandfather now wanted in Europe. Well, Shmuel Peleg took the little boy from his aunt, who had been granted custody in Italy, then brought him here to Israel. Well, he's now facing kidnapping charges in Italy with an arrest warrant issued to take him in. And for more on this story, let's bring in Anat Levi, who is a lawyer and a managing partner at Cohen Dexter Pex and Brosh, joining us there from Jerusalem. Anat, thanks so much for coming on. Now, tell me, in a case like this, where we have two countries involved, which country's law is applied?
Well, there's an international convention that most countries are signed on. Italy signed on this convention, and so is Israel. And what it means is that you will actually have to follow whatever you signed on and bring back a kidnapped kid from one country to another. So it doesn't matter which law exactly will apply. That's the international law that decides that when you kidnap someone, you are obligated to return the kid to the country that he was taken from. So in this case, the decision from court, they actually took that into consideration, and therefore their decision was to, one, bring back the kid back to his home country, and also they respected the decision of that specific court in Italy.
It is such a sad story, this poor little boy. One can only imagine the trauma that he is going through. Tell me, does his grandfather stand any chance in court of gaining custody of little Eitan after this so-called kidnapping?
Well, you always have to look at the best interest of the kid. So the fact that the grandfather kidnapped the kid, that's not giving him any positive points, of course. But this is not the one thing that will determine whether or not he's going to be suitable to raise the kid or not. And also there's another question, who in fact will raise the kid? Because at the beginning of that whole story, the aunt from Israel said that she's the one that is going to raise the kid, you know, the sister of the deceased mother. And right now, what they're doing, the family is doing, is that the grandfather and the grandmother, they are appealing on the court decision. And therefore, you don't really know. Right now, it's really unclear who is going to raise the kid, whether it's going to be the grandfather, the aunt. But once again, the best interest of the kid, that's what the judges will see.
So tell me, Anat, in your opinion, you know, with these best interests being put first, who do you believe should be taking care of this little boy who now has no immediate family?
Well, I'm not a judge, and I have to see all the facts, all the evidence. I feel personally, even not as a lawyer, as a mother, as somebody that really think of the best interest of the kid, and also thinking of the parents that wanted to raise the kid, I would want to ask the question where exactly they wanted to raise the kid. Was it really Israel or was it really Italy? And that's major. I mean, you can't really ignore their wishes. And if their wish was to raise the kid here, so I think you need to take that into consideration. But not only this, of course, the best interest of the child, that's the top priority.
Yeah, 100%. And now tell me, you know, how messy can we really expect this to get? We see so often in these family courts, both parties just absolutely ripping each other to shreds and leaving some, you know, poor little being like little Eitan sitting on the sidelines.
I agree. Well, that can take a while. That can get very messy. As if you remember, the first time that the grandfather kidnapped the kid, that was in September, and that took a while until they get to court. Now there's an execution delay order. So whatever the court here decided, they are stopping this for right now because the family wanted to appeal. So that can get really messy, and that can take a while. Like years even of fights. And you
Yes.
are right. I mean, the kids, they have to think about the kids. So hopefully right now they have like joint custody and he can see both families, because if at the end he will be with one family, they have to remember that he has to know them and feel comfortable with this family right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Now. And even, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you continue. I was going to ask you, you know, with this grandfather now facing these kidnapping charges, what can we expect to happen to him? Will there be some sort of extradition order to bring him in?
So once again, he made a mistake, I believe, and he should maybe pay for that, but that's for court to decide, and they will have to examine all the decisions that led him to that. He's claiming that it wasn't a kidnap, but once again, court will have to decide that, because they have to read all the material relating in the decision that made him do that. I think that it was a mistake, though.
Well, I think
that decision.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, you know, everyone here can agree that, you know, the little boy's interest should ultimately be put first, and that this is just a really heartbreaking story. Anat Levi, we'd really appreciate you coming on to chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
Bye.